York's classic rock. Q1043.
Q104.3, Jim Florentine is with us. Of course, a very famous comedian, but also a metal guy, a hard rock and metal guy, and a very well-known one. So I have a question for you regarding Led Zeppelin, because I overheard a conversation with some people who were debating at a bar. And one person put forth the proposition that Led Zeppelin was in fact a metal and a hard rock band that helped to found the genre. And the other person was saying, no, they're just a pop band.
Oh, man. Wow.
What do you think, Jim?
To me, they're like a hard rock blues band. You know, when I was growing up, it was always the argument, Zeppelin or Sabbath. Who did you like? And I was more of a Sabbath guy, but I love Zeppelin too. But I like the harder sound. But they're definitely not a pop band.
Well,
yeah, I would consider more the blues. That's where it came from.
To put it in some context, the person went on to say in a discussion of Metallica, describing Metallica as bubblegum posers. So,
well, that gives you an idea of where that.
Give you some idea of where one of the person's heads was.
Well, that sounds like that guy likes death metal.
So Jim, you are the bearer of happiness this morning because, you know, we've been locked down. People were, you know, there was nowhere to go and nothing to do for most people for 15, 16 months. And your visit with us this morning represents a return to laughter and entertainment
and normalcy
and fun, because it means that a world-class performer, you, will be on the stage at Caroline's entertaining people in person, live.
I never thought it would happen this quick, the way things were going. And just that, like, New York opened back up. I was going in last summer, and it was rough. I mean, it was a ghost town. I never saw New York like that. One good thing, like coming in from New Jersey, I live in New Jersey, is there was no traffic. I'm like, I could get used to this.
Yeah, me too. I hear you.
Yeah, and then when everything started to open back up, I actually got mad. I'm like, oh man, I wish it was back in the old days. Like, I almost felt guilty getting in the city in like 36 minutes when it would take me an hour and a half.
Right? Yeah.
Well, but no, it's great that the clubs are back open, people are out, and you know, business is back to normal in New York.
And you have 5 shows coming up.
Yeah, Anderson's on the shows with me too. He's another metalhead, so it's gonna be like a metal show in Times Square. I don't know how that's gonna, you know, hope the tourists want to see something like that where they want to hear some Iron Maiden jokes.
Well, there's a Thursday show at 7:30, Friday 7:30 and 9:45, and Saturday at 7:30 and 9:45. And tickets are at carolines.com. And of course, Carolines is on Broadway between 49th and 50th Streets. It's one of the most famous clubs in the whole United States. It's a real destination, and it's a great place, I know, to see a show. What's it like for you as a performer?
That was the place, you know, when I first started working the clubs in New York 25 years ago. If I can get in Caroline's and be on that stage, that was it. You made it if you got on there. So I used to work there a lot, and over the years, I've had a great relationship there. It's in a great spot, and yeah, it's a great club, and I'm excited to be. I haven't been there in a while either, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you have what, 6 comedy albums?
Yeah.
And you have 4 full-length television specials?
Yeah.
All right. So when does the major motion picture happen?
He's already been in a couple, right?
No, but I mean talking about the Jim Florentine story.
Yes.
You know, the major motion
it's
picture.
just not that interesting yet.
Well, you have one of the most successful podcasts in the country.
Well, yeah, the podcasting does well, and who knows? But no, everything's good. I mean, just that I could still make a great living at what I do, what I want to do at this point in my life. I've been doing this 30 years now. Is awesome. You know, you don't take that stuff for granted. As you get older, you don't take it for granted. When I sat home for 4 months for the first time and not being on tour for 28 years, I really appreciated what I did even more.
Mm-hmm.
That's when things started opening last summer. I was playing in parking lots. They would put a stage outside. I was under a tree. It would start raining. I'm like, this is great. Meanwhile, I would have never done something like that before the lockdown.
Well, the lockdown caused a lot of people to be to draw a source of creativity from within that they didn't even know they had. I mean, there were drive-in movie theater concerts.
Yeah. Yeah, I did one in a parking lot concert where they beat the horn if they liked a joke.
Right. Yeah, that's
I
so
was
weird, right?
Yeah, I did that one early on. I was standing in the back of a pickup truck in the bed, and they would beep if they liked the joke. The worst was if you just got one beep, because that was just a sympathy beep. Then you knew your joke really was bad. And I like working the crowd. I like going in the crowd and picking on people. And I'm like, it was tough. I'm like, who's that guy in the Honda Accord over there? He's just
It's
waving at me in his car.
it's Jim Florentine with us this morning here at Q104.3. As a comedian with years and years and years of experience, the recent difficulties that some comedians have been talking about, expressing in interviews regarding the woke culture in which we live and the cancel culture that threatens performers. Has it caused you at all to worry about your own material and and how it's going to go over in today's bizarre world?
Well, one good thing about it is those people that are offended never come to comedy clubs. They know who's performing there, so they stay away. They know, like, this is they'll look up the comic. There's video of them online. Like, that's not my style of comedy. On a comedy stage, it's not happening yet, but everywhere else is. I'm just not famous enough for them to come after me, which thank God. Like, even if they did, they're like, well, what can we take away from the guy? Yeah, he's playing a club in, Kansas City next month. There's really no. So yeah, it is a little discerning, but I just try to ignore it. Do my on stage. That's where you could be yourself still.
Because you see, one of the problems is that you don't know what's offensive.
Yeah.
I mean, I read it. I read in the newspaper this morning that Brandeis University banned the word picnic. Now, there wasn't any explanation, and I can't figure out, what was offensive about picnic, but it offends somebody. And well, of course, comedy is always offended, but now, the Twitter mob can come get you.
Yeah, but like I said, those Twitter mob, they're not coming. As long as you don't put like an inappropriate joke on Twitter or online, where you make some kind, say something like that, I think you're safe. On stage, like I said, they don't care. People, it's actually worked better for comics because if you have a following, your fans really want to come see you, let loose on stage and not worry about that stuff. It's almost refreshing to them. Like, finally, I'm in a place where I could just sit and laugh and not worry about being fired for laughing at inappropriate jokes. So it's actually helping guys like me.
Well, you actually do have a very big following all over the country. And the podcast that you have has got a great name. Everybody is awful,
Yeah.
parenthetically, except you. And it's on the Barstool Sports platform. Now, talk about a platform that just exploded,
blew up.
I mean,
big time.
There are Barstool programs that have bigger audiences than primetime shows on the big TV networks.
Yeah, and the owner of the company, Dave Portnoy, he's another guy who doesn't care. He fights back. He's always, going after people. They try to come after him. There's nothing really they could do with his own platform. And I met with them, and they like my podcast. My podcast is basically making fun of, like, social media posts, people that post dumb stuff, post their food, and everyone comments on the chicken sandwich that someone just made, like they're a genius. 6 o'clock at night, you had a feeling you were hungry. I don't know what you want me to do. That you took a picture of your food.
Well, Jim Florentine, headlines this weekend: Caroline's on Broadway, 5 shows: Thursday 7:30, Friday 7:30 and 9:45, Saturday 7:30 and 9:45. Tickets are at carolines.com. And that, of course, is on Broadway between 49th and 50th Streets. And one of the things, speaking of food, that I always liked about Caroline's is that, unlike many other clubs, Caroline's has a really good kitchen,
Oh yeah, they do.
and the food there is really good.
It is. Yeah.
You know, don't have dinner before you go to the show. Have dinner there because it's good.
No, it is good. Yeah, usually the comedy club food is terrible. Like you always have to, as a comic, you always have to eat somewhere else before you get to the club because the food's
Yeah.
so crappy. But yeah, Caroline's is always famous for good food. That's a place we'll always get there early to eat,
Mhm.
get a free meal in.
Nice.
All right. Well, I'm sure at some point in your career, you know, before you were famous, getting the free meal was a big plus.
It still is. You know, you beat the system. You beat the system.
I got a quick one for Jim. Jim, of all the famous comedians you may have worked with or met, was there one that really sort of stands out where you're like, I can't believe I just met this guy, or I'm standing next to this guy?
Well, Andrew Dice Clay was a big influence of mine when I first started. I just saw, I was a rock guy. I was a DJ in a rock club and all that stuff. And I wanted to get on stage somehow. And I saw him in a leather jacket up on stage telling dirty jokes. And I'm like, man, that's what I want to do.
I go like,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, wow, because he was like a rock star when he first came out. I was like, man, this guy's selling out arenas. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. And, I couldn't do what he did. I started being like him when I first started. I couldn't get that far doing stuff like that. So I just, eventually formed my own self on stage, but that was a big influence. And then I wound up opening for him over the years, and I'm still friends with him. So that was pretty cool.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's funny because he came to my wedding about 6 years ago, and
Did he make the toast?
No, he's like, no, I don't want to. He didn't want to make a toast, but he did one in my ear. First of all, he hands me a wad of cash. He goes, look, he's in my ear. He goes, look, I see the kind of friends that you hang out with. Put this in your pocket because I'm afraid they're going to steal it out of you. He goes, look, I'm happy for you this day. This is a great day for you and your wife. He goes, but just know one day she's going to hate your guts. That was his message to me on my wedding day. And then I called him up 2.5 years later. I go, you were right. She hates my guts.
Jim Florentine at Caroline's. Tickets at carolines.com. Thanks for spending time with us this morning. We appreciate
it, man. Thank you for having me.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.